So, first of all, I love that I get to follow Tan's speech because it was super girl power, and so is mine. So, just first and foremost. But I'm here to talk about the fact that we live in a society now where we do spotlight gender inequalities and gender misdoings, as you could say. And now we are in the age where we do want to give the right apology, give the right repercussions, help those who have been affected, and also educate those that will be the next generation so they know what to see, how to handle it, and how to stop the problem at its core. So I will specifically be talking about South Korean women that were around 14 to 20 years of age back in 1937, prior to World War II. At that time, the Imperial Japanese Army had invaded her small village, and they took it upon themselves to go pull out young boys and girls around the age of like 7th to 8th grade here now. And the boys would fight as student soldiers during the day. And I am really talking about one girl in general. Her name is Kim Bok-Dong. She was 14 years old whenever she was taken out of school. The army took her home to her house and told her and her mother that she would be going to China to work in a garment factory and that she would return when she was of age to marry. So at that time was around 16 to 17. So she'd virtually be gone for 3 years. The Japanese army also made her mother sign a release form, although at that time a lot of women were not given the privilege to be able to read, so she was just going based off whatever the army man was telling her. And if she chose to refuse, then her family would be exiled and they would be seen as traitors. So Kim goes overseas, is taken away, and she is abused as a sexual slave for the Japanese army for 8 years. And when she returns, she cannot bear to tell her story to anybody. She finally tells her mother, and her mother eventually ends up passing away of a heart attack because of the news that her daughter gave her. Because whenever she was working, she would work from 12 noon to 6 p.m. on Saturdays and 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sundays. And this is a small video right here of whenever they first got there. They're just standing there lined up. You can see the army men just kind of questioning them. Whenever Kim was brought in front of the Japanese officials, they all wondered if she was too young because she was 14 years old and many of the other women around her were 18 to 19. So Kim decided to come back. She had the will to live, and she survived to tell her story now. Although this kind of behavior from men in the South Korean culture unfortunately hasn't changed. According to the Korean Institute of Criminology study, they took a survey of 2,000 men, and out of the 2,000 men, 45% have admitted to physical or psychological abuse, abusing their girlfriends while they've dated. There's been 21% have admitted to sexual harassment, 21% have admitted to psychological abuse, and 13% have admitted to psychological violence. And that is not something that needs to be swept under the rug. So now that we see what had happened, and also kind of wrapping this all in with their spiritual belief system, according to PBS.org, Confucianism holds a centralized patriarch kind of belief system, so the fathers and the men were always treated in their culture with more respect. This is not a unique instance because this actually ended up happening to over 200,000 girls during the time of the war, according to BBC.com. So now that we see what's happened, let's fast forward to where we are now. So the South Korean women are taking action in politics. As of 1948, the South Korean Constitution was proclamated for equality, especially highlighted women's rights to employment and to education. And that's according to the Columbia Journal of International Affairs 2016. The Seattle government is now implicating plans to show signs and to educate young girls now on dating abuse. And this is a list that they gave just to understand that not all types of abuse is just being hit or being told, you know, you're this, you're that. There's all different kinds, and not the smallest case should ever go unnoticed or go, you know, without seeking prosecution. And what would happen? Kim Bok-Dong unfortunately passed away in January of this year without receiving a formal apology from Japan. Although with the money that she did receive from donations, she started the Butterfly Fund that also helped victims of dating violence all over the world. And so this just goes to show that no matter what, no matter how old you are, she waited until she was 92, or around 60, and she died when she was 92, seeking an answer, seeking justice. I think this is a really important time for girls and for everybody in the world, that women are now being seen as more of an equal, and that things aren't being swept under the rug, things aren't okay when things aren't equal for all. So South Korean women, just to kind of hone it in, are now standing up to the previously established gender bias. And I think this is awesome, and this is what we need more, is the passion of equality. And girls rule and boys rule.